Welcome to today's show where I'll be interviewing special guest Natalie Tolhopf. Now, before I dive into that, I just want to welcome you to the show with a new name. So this is episode 43 of what was formerly the Lou Blakely Show. And now today is the first episode of the show with a new name, which is the online course Creator Show. So if you want to know why I changed the name, head back to just the one before this one, episode 42, and give that a listen. And also, if you're a person who is interested in creating online courses and growing that side of your business, then make sure you subscribe in Apple. All you have to do is when you're in Apple, just hit the plus button up the top when you look up the online course Creator Show. Now, enough about that. Let's talk about Natalie. So Natalie Tolhopf is New Zealand's top sales and mindset coach. For the last decade, she's been teaching business owners to cultivate powerful self-belief and become confident to sell in a simple, authentic, and successful way. After growing her own profitable business and experiencing failed businesses too, Natalie Tolhopf is a real-life sales expert who knows that success is all about mindset, imperfect action, and consistency. So I'm very happy to have Natalie on the show today. So let's dive straight into the interview. Hello, Natalie. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Lou. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. And I know that many of our listeners will be excited as well. So for those of you who don't know Natalie, can you just take a wee moment to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do?
Doesn't everyone hate that question? It's hilarious when you've got to go introduce yourself because you're like, guys, who am I? No,
I know.
But just to keep it really, keep it simple. I'm Nat, and I help women sell with confidence, and that's how I just like to keep it because I think the name says it so much. You either know how to sell, but maybe you need some help with confidence in other areas, or you don't sell well and you've got no confidence. So I can help you in both of those areas, and I do it by helping others take imperfect action, where if you just get into the steps of doing something, you're going to be able to create your greatest work, but you can't do that if you're not starting. So that's primarily what I do, and I've been doing that for probably, I was trying to think the other day, I think I've been doing this 6 to 7 years now, and I really love it. I really love being able to support women in business to, just get their work out there into the world.
I love that. So to my listeners, I have often talked about how I was doing purely one-on-one done-for-you work, and then I hired a coach that helped me launch my first online course many years ago, and that coach was actually Natalie. So I have worked with Natalie in the past as my coach, and she's amazing. So yeah, it's really cool to actually have you on and chat about all the good stuff, because I feel like you're really the person who taught me about imperfect action and just taking messy action and just doing it anyway. So what kind of led you to imperfect action and that being like your motto?
Yay, thanks for that, Lou. That was so cool. I really enjoyed coaching you because you've got such an extraordinary brain. And I just love working with women who they've got so much goodness to give, and then we just get fucking our own way, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you were, but maybe a little.
Totally, come on.
So shout out to you having this podcast and just getting it out there. Like this is the greatest definition of messy action. Just go do the things. So how I got into imperfect action is career-wise, I'm a chef by trade. And as a chef, there's no room for imperfect action. There is only room for perfect action. So I had that drummed into me. And when you put perfection into a business world, we just get an upheaval. I can't do this. I'm not cut out for it. We really start to second guess ourselves. Business needs a whole lot of, it's not that we want to throw spaghetti, but you've got to go get messy through taking that first action. And so I had to unlearn it for myself that if you wanted to have a great offer, program, podcast, whatever it is, you have to start at iteration number 1. That's the only way through. And is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be great? Probably. So go and do it because it's going to be great, not because it's going to be perfect, you know?
I think as well when you're a solopreneur or you have your own small business and it's just really you, you don't have the resources that you're used to in like corporate or whatever. Because I feel like imperfect action is not something that's drummed into us at corporate.
No.
Like there's a team normally and you've got resources and your boss usually wants perfection. So I feel like when we come into business, we carry those high standards in, but we don't have the resources to actually do it.
I agree. And I think it comes down to, so you might be the expert in what you do. And then because we're not experts in all the things, marketing, selling, accounts, social media, when we're not an expert in those things, we go, oh, I'm not good at those. And then we doubt what we're actually really good at. And that causes so much inaction because, like you said, we're used to a team of doing stuff. And then when we've got to do it ourselves and we go, oh, but I'm not good at this. But we forget that we're actually still good at our core work. And that's what pisses me off, is that it's like, no, don't start to second guess what you're actually good at. Maybe you're not meant to be good at scheduling your own social media. Go and get someone else to do that, or learn the skills. But man, don't dare doubt what you've come here to bring. And I think that's what catches people up, is they think, oh, I'm not that good at stuff. And when we look at it, it's just that they're trying to be a bookkeeper when they're an artist. So of course you're not bloody good at it.
Yeah, what a way to like rip your energy away from you when you're kind of trying to do all those boring business tasks when you're a creative person, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've just released your second book, which is called Becoming Unstoppable.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. So when I wrote the first book, I've got that is up there, Allergic to Perfect. That was amazing to put out. That was like, guys, this is stuff I've learnt, how to take action. Here's kind of like my blueprint of what I did. And I was like, there'll never be another book, like I'm done. And then slowly after time, I'm like, oh, I think there can be another book. And the way that I write is I write in the moment of exploring the idea. So it's not I'm going to go do some research about trees and write a chapter on tree growth through statistical findings. I'm going to try to tell you the stories. Sometimes as I'm going through them. So Become Unstoppable, holy crap, it was very hard to write. Because
but the latest one was harder to write.
Yeah, the new one was quite hard to write because I was experiencing quite a lot of the chapter lessons while I was writing it. So I kind of had to put the book writing down, go through my own lessons, and then come back and write about it. Because I really wanted to look at, I hit a couple of plateaus 3 or 4 years into my business, and I was like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I hit these new levels? Social media is like, you've got to have a 7-figure business now, like 6 figures not enough. You've got to be able to do all these things. And I was like, I just was struggling to keep up. And in that time, poo-pooing what I'd actually achieved and keep moving this benchmark and pedestaling all these people and keeping up with the Joneses. And I was like, surely other people are experiencing this. I'm going to go write a book to go, what if we just decided to not keep up with everyone, see actually how far we've come? What if we performed from, I'm actually bloody good at what I do, I'm an expert, let's go. What if we grew from there? So I put this book out very recently, in the last 4 weeks, and the feedback's been awesome, because you do worry when you put a book out, oh shit, is anyone going to get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that is so relatable. I feel like online especially, we compare ourselves because we're scrolling on social media and we're checking out what our competitors are doing, and it's just sometimes a really bad cycle to get into. And I love what you say about, we don't have to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
So how does someone actually who feels like they're in that comparison trap and they feel like their achievements aren't enough, maybe they're not expert enough, basically it's imposter syndrome, really.
Yeah, it is a tone. We all have levels of it, right? Some people will go get more qualifications. Some people will keep themselves smaller because, yeah, it all shows up so differently. Imposter, hey, everyone has it,
Yeah.
a form of it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking before this interview, like self-sabotage is a thing, but it's actually caused by imposter syndrome. They're not like two different things, really.
I think I forget the guy. Is it Jimmy? No, I was about to say Jimi Hendrix, but he's dead and he was a singer, so he didn't write this. But the guy who
No.
wrote Big Leap, and he talks about that whole upper limit that you
Oh,
can.
Gay Hendrix.
That's it. I was
Yeah.
on the right kind of like.
Yeah, right last name.
Go Jimmy. And he talks about the upper limit. Like you might be like going so well in one area of your life, and then you'll decide that something's not quite good enough, and you bring yourself back down to size. That's what he calls with upper limiting yourself. And in the book, I get you to have a look at where are you doing that for yourself? Where are you? Example of that is writing this book, having lots of pre-orders, and then just start telling myself that physically I'm not where I should be, therefore dress differently. I started talking quite down to myself, and I was like, oh shit, this is limiting. This is me coming back to a comfortable thermostat to pull myself back down. And it's more prevalent than we actually think. And it's just understand when we're doing it and to then what to do about it.
Yeah, and I think there's like stages of it, right? Like you feel like I've moved on, I've gotten over that, and then something else will come and smash you from the side, you know? One of those things for me, I feel like, has been getting older on the internet.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, everyone's like in their late 20s or early 30s, and I just turned 40 at the end of last year. So I was just like, oh my God, I'm actually old. And then that brought with it a whole new lot of things, that I had to work through. So I think it never ends, right?
I so agree with you, especially that aging piece. I think social media is slowly changing, but they haven't really made aging for women a gracious thing. Like, well, you have to look a certain way, or you've got to go and Botox this and change that. And I had a lot of sick friends recently, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just so grateful to age because they may not be able to. So I'm like, oh man, just, don't get too over the top about those things. I so hear you about, before we jumped on, we were talking about our kids calling us boomers, and we're like, what? No.
I know. I was talking to Christine Sheehy because I interviewed her a few weeks ago about this, and she was like, well, at least we're all like getting old on the internet together. And I was like, that's a really good point. Like, there are other people who who are in the same boat. We don't need to compare ourselves to the...
I always think there will always be people who will, and I often have said this to a couple of interior design clients who who are older women, and they're like, oh, there's all these new, the new guns coming out. And I'm like, listen, I'd rather have someone who has wisdom, life skill, done 100 styling jobs over someone who's done 20 and think this is what looks good. I'm like, I want someone who is an expertise and actually knows. And she's like, oh, I never thought of it like that. So that's how I think of my aging, because I turned 46 last week and I was devastated. I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, no, hang on, that must give me some kudos and street cred, even though I do embarrass my children because I still think I'm cool. And there's room for our wisdom. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just going to be like, I'm going to hang on to that for as long as I can.
Yeah, and like you say, there is so much, like we're so privileged to be getting older and
Well,
yeah, totally. So when you talk about being unstoppable and imperfect action, all of that kind of thing, what are the common things that you actually see in your coaching, in your workshops, that kind of thing? What are the things that are holding people back from being truly unstoppable?
So it's a good question. And first, I'm just going to read you the first quote in the book, because becoming unstoppable isn't about like hustling, because that's what it sounds like. Oh, become unstoppable means you've got to do heaps. It actually, from Bo Taplin, I put a quote in here of she was unstoppable not because she did not have failures or doubts, but because she continued on despite them. And that's the whole point of becoming unstoppable is everyone in the last 3 years, it doesn't matter where you're listening to this in the world, is you've all had to become unstoppable because of excuse the word, unprecedented times. And particularly in New Zealand, when we then, 2023, we're all like, yeah, let's go. And then we're like, hey, here's some floods. And so it stopped people, right? And so becoming unstoppable is about, hey, actually, you guys have done such a great job in the last 3 to 4 years. That is being unstoppable, that resilience piece. And that becoming unstoppable isn't about doing more. It's about being more of yourself. And I really want to normalize imposter concerns, worries, that like everyone has them. It doesn't matter who you are in your business, how much money you're generating. Everyone comes with thoughts. The people who keep moving forward, though, are the ones who do it anyway. Even though you're shit scared, you're doing it. Even though you're not sure, you're doing it. And that's the point, is to normalize, hey, it's okay you feel this. In fact, it's so normal. Let's normalize it so then you can get on with it anyway. Because I don't think people talk about it enough. I get to work with incredible women who do incredible things and lead incredible teams, and they still have doubt, concerns, imposter. It doesn't go away. They just learn to name it, move through it, and carry on anyway.
I think that's right, that people don't talk about it. So, if you haven't been in business for that long, you're like, what is going on with me? Why am I... It's like this handbrake, right?
Yeah.
That's how I think of it. Like, you've got the handbrake pulled up and you can't move forward because you're so in your head.
Listen, look, it's easier to go have a job. Running a business is actually, it's really hard. And I know NLP practitioners and manifestors, they'll be like, wah! But I'm like, I'm a realist. Oh, shit. Oh, this just fell over, people. Sorry for the podcasters.
Yeah.
But I'm a massive realist that if you want easy, go and get a job, man, because business is a constant moving thing. And if you're going to not come from I know what I'm doing and choose that thought as opposed to this isn't working, but finding evidence that it is working and choosing what feels better, then you're going to have a rough ride.
Yeah, I think self-doubt is without a doubt just so crippling if you let it be.
Yeah.
But that's interesting about getting a job. And I feel like we have a kind of unique personality where there's something about that we just don't want.
We probably get fired on like day one.
I know, like completely unemployable. I also think with business, like, there's no made it. There's no like, once I get there, I've got this. Like, it's a wave. And like, you can be killing it and then something comes along. And,
I totally agree, but it does fascinate me. I don't know if it fascinates you, Lou, about why is it that some women do just never seem to, they just seem to ride this wave that just keeps going and like, but then the majority don't. So I'm like, is it that 1%? Like it won't happen for everyone, but it will happen for, this certain percentage of people. I find it fascinating.
It is fascinating, actually. I think it's interesting, though, because it kind of depends. Well, I think that your work and your life are very much integrated 100%. And you can get swept away and totally off your business path by something that happens in your personal life, or your business could be extremely successful, but your personal life kind of sucks. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like that's winning. So sometimes, we could be comparing ourselves to people who have an amazing business and are absolutely killing it, but things aren't right in other areas of their life. Whereas I just think comparing, we don't know what's going on with other people and all of that kind of thing.
I definitely agree, and I think it is that whole, like, no one has their shit together because no one does. And so we have to just keep reminding ourselves that it's a human, humans will have bad days. So if you have a bad day, week or month, and you might be like, it's been going on for years, don't worry, other people do too. I think we just think it's an alone thing. So yeah, I find that fascinating. Like, why is a certain person able to push through or be successful and others aren't? So Yeah, I find that interesting.
I feel like also it's understanding that there's always going to be crap coming along,
Yeah.
whether that's in our personal life or in our business, and it's about finding solutions rather than dwelling on the problem for too long.
Do you think too, like, it's around like what you might value? So I think if you know what your values are, so as long as you compare yourself to your own values, like, oh, is this something I value? That's really helped me because I do really value. When I did my values the first time, I remember being, oh my gosh, because it wasn't family or friends first, it was wealth creation or business. And for a little while, I was like, oh man, what does that mean about me? It doesn't mean anything. It just means I value my business and I love it. And I used to beat myself up about that. It doesn't mean I don't have friends and don't love my family and don't value them. They're just the order of them comes down.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's fine to put your business quite high up on the list,
Yeah.
but not at the detriment to the rest of
No.
your life. But you can consciously decide networking or having drinks with friends is not a priority for me like right now because I'm growing in this other area.
Yeah, totally. And I think, without going too deep into it, but I think if you have unresolved trauma and you don't know how to deal with feelings, it'll play out in your business through overworking, overgiving, self-doubt. Like, so you can be crippling. It'll actually go back to how we've been brought up. So I'm a huge fan of, if you've got some shit, go and get some therapy because your business is hard, but it doesn't have to be emotionally killing you. Like, if it is, go and talk to someone about it because that isn't cool. You've really got to safeguard your mental health.
Yeah, and I think that when we're looking to business results for our worthiness, that can be a really dangerous cycle. So actually realizing that you're a human away from your business, and I love that, like, focus on your mental health.
Yeah, I talk about that in the book about external validation, especially for high achievers, perfectionists, aka me. Because as a chef, you always needed the approval of your head chef. So when I came out into business, you're always looking for approval and people telling you that it was enough because that's how you got the validation in career-wise. And so if you don't see, and you see the actions like, oh, I did a post and no one loved it, therefore I'm useless. And then what the actions do you go and take that really is telling for you in your business, where you're at with the need for external validation?
So what do you suggest for people who are their own boss and part of them is like, I just wish I had someone to tell me what to do or tell me I'm doing a great job? What do you suggest for them to kind of get out of that mindset and actually step into their own leadership, really?
Yeah. It's actually without, marketing coaches, but that's the job of a coach, is being able to be that sounding board and being able to help you with that leadership and say, hey, actually a really good idea, you should go do it, or hey, actually, should we talk about it? So one thing is to have, and I don't, accountability is fine, but if you do have a friend in business where you could actually have that as that sounding board to help that, because we're not meant to make those things alone, and it can be really hard because we only see business through our own lens, and seeing it through other people's is really, really helpful. So yeah, I think for me, I was really hell-bent on never asking for help and doing it on my own. Like, I made it a thing that I needed to learn and know everything. Oh, that was exhausting.
I think I did that too. Especially in marketing, because it's like I needed to know every single part of marketing. And I reckon that's one of the reasons I burnt out so badly, because I was trying to do every single part of digital marketing.
Yeah, it's too hard.
And I just got to the point where, like, I'm exhausted. I can't keep up with this.
Yeah, because tactically social media marketing changes like this and no one can keep up. And I think, well done on spotting that. I don't even think I answered your original question.
I can't really remember what it was. Yeah.
Good.
So you were writing the book and you said that you had to go through some of these processes yourself. So how long did that hold up the book writing process? Very long, or did you feel like it actually forced you to face it and move through something faster?
Yeah, all of those things. It didn't slow it down. If anything, it kind of consolidated that I had to do it. So Christine, who you had on your last show, has been my editor and book coach for both of my books. I couldn't have written these books without a coach and an editor. Like, it's just if you're going to write a book, it speeds it up. A book's an investment, but it's something that's extremely rewarding. So there were weeks where literally Christine would sit in this office with me, next to me, helping me bring what I was trying to say to her, the articulation, and throwing the ideas around, and then bringing them back through into a story. So there was a lot of support that had to happen, which is great, because in the book I give thanks to all the lost analogies, because I teach in analogies, and in one chapter she was like, there's 25 analogies in here, where is your brain? So we'd have to sit there and pull stuff and untangle it, and she was great.
Yeah, I think that's episode 36 for those of you listening. I definitely think that's a really good episode to listen to if you are considering writing a book. But I love what you say. I think just earlier to that bit about the book as well was that actually hiring a coach and having a support team. Like, you don't have that boss telling you what to do or saying that you've done a good job. So actually having a coach, I mean, I think that's why coaching's so valuable. I always love to have a coach in my business. I just feel like it makes such a big difference.
Well, but it helps you step up, particularly for a coach who's like, okay, what do you think you should do? So come with me with your solutions. And that's the idea. And I know through one of the chapters in Become Unstoppable, I talk about how in New Zealand, when COVID came in our first lockdowns, no one knew what to do in our businesses. There was no one who could be an expert at that moment in time, because no one even knew what the hell was going on. The only person who knew what to do at that time was the business owner. So I said to my cohort of clients, I was like, guys, you know your next step. And from there, they were able to lead themselves. So even now I'm like, you know the next step. Remember, you led yourself through a time of craziness. And that's where a coach can say, hey, you actually do know. It's just you're brought with you. Imposter, doubt, second guessing. Actually, remember, you're the expert. What do you think? Oh, you think that? Yeah, cool, let's go do it. So there's a lot to be said about what if you acted from, what if I did know? What if I owned that I'd know? What actions would I take from there, as opposed to constantly asking for feedback, which is, what do you think I should do? Did you like that? You know?
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's what coaching really is, but it gets kind of lost in some situations.
Yeah.
But I think especially once we've been in business for more than a year or two and we've got experience actually taking this messy action and seeing the outcome of that we actually do know our next step, but we've just lost that confidence in ourselves in a way.
Well, I mean, look at governments, without going political, government and societies, how much they've dumbed us down. That we actually, and you can look at some of the generations coming behind us, like, do you know how to pack your own school bag? Like, what's going on? So, and I think that we've taken that into, people will tell us what to do. Actually, no, you could get to lead yourself. Particularly bringing that leadership into your own business is very powerful. And actually, the underpinning bit about becoming unstoppable.
Yeah, it's like, actually give it a shot. I remember at the last house we lived at before we bought the house we've just moved into, a guy across the road rang like RACQ, which is like AA, to come and change his tyre. And I was looking out the window going, I was saying to my son, don't let that ever happen to you, that you don't know how to change a tyre, because, we're relying on someone else for everything these days, where it's actually pretty easy. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I don't know if everyone knows how to change a tyre, but from my background, that kind of like, and I was like, why are we outsourcing so much of our abilities now?
Yes. Yeah, kudos to that. Why are we outsourcing our own private thinking? What the hell? And I think that's where we can lose, how often you and I are huge fans of not being cookie cutters and not being vanilla, and we're a bit rebel like that. But I think that's where, when you hear the cliches of finding your own voice, but actually, if you just become comfortable with who you are, your business will take a leap and bound forward, because you're like, you don't have time for your second guessing. You're just being more of yourself. And that attraction point is just massive.
And I think, like, obviously I help people with launching, and I see a lot of people hold themselves back for potentially years of actually wanting to create a course or a group coaching program, and they're sitting in this, but what if it doesn't work? Or I don't know if I can pull it off. But at the end of the day, you've just got to jump in there and see how it goes.
Yeah, because the reality is it may not work, it may or not sign up, but well done. You had to come through the initiation of version 1 to go and make it happen. Yeah, it's just give it a go, hey?
Yeah, it's like this podcast like we were talking about just before we hopped on. I told Nat that I was changing the name of the podcast, and we were talking about how, like this podcast's been going over for over a year now, and I knew at the time when I named it that I didn't really love the name and it would change, but it wasn't going to hold me back anymore. And I made that decision. This issue with not knowing a name, which I think is quite a common thing, you don't know what to call something. Yeah, that's not going to hold me back. I'm just going to do it. And I'm so glad now that I made that decision, because I'm over a year into podcasting, and I actually know so much more than I did when I was sitting there wondering what the name was going to be. So I think sometimes it can be just a decision.
It is. It usually is just a decision, and going, someone's not going to buy from you because your podcast is called The Lou Blakely Show. They're not going to go, sorry, your name sucks and I'm not going to now work with you. Like, no one buys like that.
And the name, I'm definitely in the camp that names don't really matter that much.
But you're okay to not always like them.
Yeah, exactly. And they can change. Like, that's
Totally.
Imperfect action. You can, and that's the beauty of online business, I think, is that we can change things whenever we want. We don't have to go out to the committee and get approval.
I think it's a really good point. So I've got the 2 books, right? Allergic to Perfect, that's the first iteration, the first name. And now it's about becoming unstoppable. So if I hadn't done Allergic to Perfect and been that person and done that, I wouldn't now be here being unstoppable. So you've got to go have those first names or that first iteration to get the next level, right? Because I think people are hell-bent on going to the top level. And I'm like, you don't get to, mate. You got to come through your own journey. You can't just go and do that there. You have to come through what we've all come through.
And you've got to learn what works and what doesn't for you and take that into your next iteration.
Yeah, totally.
But you're so right. Like, you'd never get that privilege without taking the messy action up front.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, I have absolutely loved this conversation.
Time's flowing.
I know, it has. So where can people find you or connect with you or even buy your book if they're interested?
It's funny when you talk about names, because my business name and my last name is a right hodgepodge to spell. But I'm reluctant to change it, because I'm like, well, it's been here the whole time and its business is going fine. But
I think
short answer, it's natalietolhopf.com. And I'm sure Lou's got some awesome show notes and will have tagged me in places. So come and find me, Natalie Tolhopf Sell with Confidence on Facebook. Over on the gram and website is where you can get the book.
Amazing. And I'm going to go and buy a copy myself.
Oh, yay.
Thanks so much for coming on, Natalie. I am sure that the listeners got so much from today's conversation. I really think messy and perfect action is actually one of the biggest things in business. So,
yes.
Yeah, really happy that you took the time today to come on and share your amazing knowledge.
Thanks for having me, Lou. It's awesome.
Okay, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.